What's Your Position podcast may contain adult themes, sexual discussions, and strong language. We want everyone to be educated, but we are intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Live from WYP Studios in Huntington Beach, California, this is What's Your Position? On today's show, we talk about toxic purity with guest Darcy. With a taste of your lips, I'm on a ride. You're toxic, I'm slipping under. And now your host, Ashley Weller.
Welcome, fellow humans, to another episode of What's Your Position? Season 3. All about toxic purity culture. Nice Britney Spears reference, bro. Nice. Did you just type in toxic quotes?
Actually, it was one of the first things that came up into my mind.
Oh.
When you said toxic, I was like, oh, song toxic. Oh, Britney Spears. Let's do
What's
it.
funny is that's actually probably a very, like excellent quote to give because of what Britney Spears symbolizes as far as purity is concerned. If you think about, like, the very first music video she ever made and how she was a good Catholic schoolgirl and just wanted to be kinky and get spanked. Don't we all?
That was the good times. Good times.
Today,
now she's crazy.
Today, we have a guest on the show that I am honored to introduce, Darcy, who I have known since I was 20 years old. So I've known you for 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
What?
I know. We worked at Starbucks together, and we worked at the Starbucks on Harbor and Adams in Costa Mesa, right next to Vaughn's. And I remember she was my manager, and I mentioned, like, my last name at the time was Jemison. And I remember she's like, wait, do you know Linda Jemison? And I'm like, well, yeah, because she's my aunt.
Yep.
And she's like, wait, Linda Jemison of the Doll Hut? And I'm like, yes, the one and only.
That's Linda's Doll Hut. You get
Linda's
it right.
Doll Hut. And we had this very odd bond over the fact that I knew everyone you knew, just in a Dave Mao, G. Charles,
Yep.
like Greg Antista, Steve Soto, all of these people who...
Fucking name dropper? God, no one knows who these names are.
Oh, people know.
Well, some
People
NOC
know.
people, but people on the East Coast.
Greg
are like,
Antista just did Brewhee-Haw at the
Yes.
OC Fair.
what is that?
It's the first two concerts of the OC Fair is like a brewery beer.
Oh, I thought it was the name of his
ska.
band.
No.
Oh.
But his band
Good name.
played.
Oh, okay.
But he just played the OC Fair. Greg Antista's huge,
Okay.
by the way.
Steve Soto, rest in peace.
All right,
Amen.
People
Steve
absolutely
Soto.
know who Steve Soto is.
Cheers to Steve Soto.
Cheers
and
to
Agent
Steve
Orange
Soto.
Pass it on.
and the Adolescents.
Yep.
Cheers to all
and
of
every
that.
other punk band he filled in for.
Yep.
Or inspired. But it was an interesting situation for me to know that someone at my work when I'm 20 years old knows of that part of my life. Because at that time, I was still very much going to the Doll Hut with my aunt and seeing bands and very much a part of her life with her friends. And so, but I'm very like not rockabilly. So, and Linda's Doll Hut very much was. And so
you
it was.
could do a good cosplay.
I could do
You're
a
just not the daily.
pinup. I could do a pinup cosplay
Right.
for sure, but not on the daily. That's
Right,
just
right.
not. It's,
As you sit next to someone with these bangs. Right?
I'm just,
Yeah, that's the daily.
that's the daily.
This is the daily.
She can't pull off straight bangs like that.
I can't have straight bangs ever. Like
No.
my hair won't allow for it. It's
And
not. A
and when
thing.
people with your level of curl
Oh,
try
yeah.
and do bangs, it's a nightmare.
It's a bad idea.
It's a nightmare.
Bad fucking plan.
Really bad
I'll
plan.
give you a little bit of info about our guest today, Darcy, who is a academic lecturer, a program coordinator, an advisor. She is an author and a performer. She combines educational experience as a low-income, first-generation adult re-entry transfer student, which I would like you to explain in just a second.
Absolutely.
Along with how she has included academic research, that she has built connections through communities, both inside and outside of higher education. She holds a bachelor's and a master's in American Studies from Cal State Fullerton, and research areas include race and ethnicity, gender and sexuality, ideals and institutions, death, dying, and grief within American culture. So when we talk about cultural stereotypes, when we talk about social norms and social constructs, you're the person that knows the most. Because it's one of my favorite things to talk about.
I know a lot. I don't know the most, but I know a lot.
You know a lot.
Yes.
When she is not serving students and her community, Darcy enjoys spending time with her family, her friends, practicing magic. I have so many crystals to talk to you about. Podcasting and writing for Cinema
Centuries.
What's Cinema Centuries?
Cinema Centuries is the movie review website that I write for. Uh-huh.
Oh my God. She also loves reading. Hello, books, comedy, and collecting jewelry and action figures. Okay.
And the paranormal.
So also...
That's so much more my academic bio. Instead of I live in a haunted house.
The paranormal.
Yeah.
And can we talk about your haunted house really quickly?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
please.
So one of my side gigs that I enjoy doing, because it's a little performance, it's like combines history and the paranormal.
And performance.
Yeah, it is really the sweet spot. Many of the friends that have been on the tour, this absolutely makes sense for you.
Oh, yeah.
Is I work as a paranormal host and tour guide for Haunted OC, which is Orange County's premier haunted entertainment.
Has your mother done this?
I don't think so. She's not really into the haunted house type of thing.
Okay.
She's a ghost hunter, though.
So here's the thing, though, and this is where it's important to know. We are haunted historical tours. Oh. So we are not jump scares. I don't like jump scares. No. I get punchy and I don't want to hurt anybody.
I do too.
I'm just
I get very fight.
Yeah.
I get very fight.
Very
I don't
fight.
do flight. I do I'll kill you.
Yeah. So I don't want to hurt anyone.
Gotcha.
And so the house, it is not a rigged house like some haunted and paranormal attractions are and then a person, it's a room of stuffed animals, but someone's really a person. That's not my gig. That's not Haunted OC's gig. So most of the Haunted OC tours, there is downtown Santa Ana, Old Town Orange, downtown Fullerton, San Juan Capistrano, and Black Star Canyon are some of the mains.
Oh, yeah, Black Star Canyon.
And those ones mostly take place outside. So it would be this, referring to a building or a place and a story behind it. The downtown Santa Ana one, when it is up, those guests do often get the opportunity to go inside the Howe Waffle House, which is a Victorian house in Santa Ana where Dr. Wilhelmina Howe Waffle was one of she was the first female physician in all of Santa Ana.
What?
So it's very historic. It's a beautiful house, but it has a lot of activity. And
what'd she do there?
She was a doctor. She treated patients. People lived and died in that house.
Wow.
She was.
It wasn't like she was a mad scientist.
No,
doctor.
she wasn't. She was like a real doctor, and so it's very historic for those reasons. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous house. And she did not pass away in that house like people have. She died, but she died away from the house, but. A lot of people came in and out, just like a place very close to your heart and Linda's heart, the Queen Mary. A lot of people on and off that ship, right?
A lot of energy on that
people
ship.
Pass away, a lot of energy in that house.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the main ones. But then most recently, the Villa Montezuma in San Diego got added. So that's an indoor tour, lantern lit tour. And then
lantern lit,
because the Villa Montezuma used to be owned by a medium.
Oh,
yeah, right.
So much energy.
Holy energy.
Shit.
And that one is I think it's only 15 people. It's very limited. And then Kellogg House we brought back.
Oh yeah.
And so when a lot
of weddings at the Kellogg House.
A lot of weddings. Weddings of people we know.
Yeah.
that have been there. And when. Huge surprise to everyone already, I'm sure. I'm extroverted.
No.
What?
Huh?
I know. And so coming out of the pandemic, I was like,
I have to do
I would like to do a thing.
I'd like to do anything.
I'd like to do anything right
Anything
now,
that you have, I can do.
And so I'd actually reached out because I host and produce a podcast for the CW network called Mysteries Decoded, which is a sister podcast to their television show.
Mysteries Decoded on the CW.
On the CW. And so I did a companion podcast to that. And so
is it still going?
We dropped the full season, is out now, 8 episodes. We talk about black-eyed children, Bigfoot, hauntings, cursed objects, the Conjuring house, witches.
I just watched The Conjuring the other night.
Area 51.
Where can people find this podcast?
Any place you get podcasts. Look for the All-Seeing Eye.
Oh,
Mysteries Decoded.
Mysteries Decoded.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So there's 8 episodes, amazing guests. Like I had 17 incredible, wanted to talk to them for hours and hours guests that we had to like trim down.
Damn.
But fantastic people that people can follow. And so in getting back, like tying back into the paranormal and the show talks to like people have had experiences, but also we talk, like I get to talk to a couple incredible academics, some authors, some people that have just been researching in the field for a long time, like just really interesting folks.
You do so much though. Like you have your plate your plate is not only full, but it's almost like you're on a cruise buffet. And not only do you have ambrosia salad, but you also have lobster bisque.
Sure.
And you have like a peanut Thai salad.
Absolutely.
Alongside like penne regat from like
you gotta try it out.
You're doing paranormal podcasts.
Yeah.
You're doing movie reviews.
Yep.
You are lecturing.
Yep.
You are writing.
Yeah.
What do you do Monday through Friday? What's your job?
So my day job is I work at a university and I am a senior program coordinator.
Which means what?
Which means that I oversee and execute academic and non-academic programming for, in my job, 6 specific scholar communities. So 4 of the scholar communities are first generation, means that they're the first in their family to go to college.
Okay.
Or maybe not like their siblings may be going to college, but like their parents or parent or supporter or
that
guardian.
generation is the first.
Right. They're the first. Then we have our merit-based scholars who are high achievers, the president's scholars. So they come in, have very high grades. And then our guardian scholars who are our current and former foster youth.
Oh, wow.
And so I support them through academic and non-academic programming and helping support the other folks in our center who also do programming. I do like academic coaching and professional, like we try and touch base with the students on 3 different aspects, like the community aspect, the academic aspect, and the professional aspect, right?
Yeah.
So hitting those kinds of pillars. So I work with a caseload. I work mostly with the juniors. So not just what we call native, which means they started as a freshman there and moved their way up.
Maybe they were transfers.
Yes, or transfers, which I was. And then I also, one of the things I really love doing is I facilitate foster-friendly ally training, which I do with campus partners and community partners to help educate others about how to best support current and former foster youth in academic settings. And I have a fantastic mental health partner in that who is a licensed clinical social worker. And he usually is the one to teach on trauma-informed practice. Mm-hmm. We give them experiential aspects that kind of unsettle the participants in the same way foster youth are unsettled. But it's really a lot of things that not only are you looking at supporting current and former foster youth, because I have foster youth on our campus that like will never identify themselves.
Never. Yeah.
They will because they don't want to be seen as that anymore. And that stigma,
and it's traumatizing.
It's traumatizing.
And it gets the stigma that sticks with you because being in foster care or being adopted even is so heavy. And just if you say you're adopted, then you automatically feel like people are going to feel sorry for you. And then some people are like, the only reason they said they're adopted is because they want us to feel sorry for it's just, I can't, like, there's too many layers.
And this is one of the big things, because at the end of the training, we also always have student voices.
Oh,
so
nice.
Students are allowed to tell, because here's the thing. I came from a challenging background, but I was not in the system.
Right.
So I can be the bridge and I can be kind of the, facilitator that makes sure that they're having a instead of the word triggering, I use activating.
Okay.
Because of the fact that I've worked with veterans and folks that have experienced gun violence.
Right.
I'm trying not to use that terminology. So if you hear me say activating, that's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I don't want to reactivate anyone's trauma.
Sure.
And I tell everyone, regardless of foster youth or not, no one has a right to your story.
No.
And that is another thing when people, I'm adopted or foster, they're like, what happened?
Oh, tell me. Oh, do you know your birth mom?
Do you want someone coming to you to be like, tell me about the worst thing that ever happened in your life? No. So, and I'm very proud that over the past couple years, we have tripled our numbers and we have almost 400 outlets across community campus. I'm very proud of that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And we just recently...
Just speaks to the fact that they probably feel really comfortable, and word of mouth is huge when it comes to something like that. Like if someone shares their story with a fellow person who's been in foster care and that person's like, hey, by the way, there's something on campus that you should know about. Word spreads and they feel like they can share their story. They feel like they can come to you. Or they feel like they can access those services without feeling judgment or feeling reactivated.
Yeah, I don't want them to be activated. I want them to feel judgment. And on top, and most of all, I don't want them to feel exploited.
Right, right.
My students that have volunteered to be part of Student Voices, it's because they have said they want to share. And I make sure that there are no surprises, that we talk through it as far as sometimes we've done it in a panel, like where I'm asking questions. They all know the questions ahead of time.
Right.
Because I can sit with, bless people that want to be allies, but I can sit with them for 4 hours or 8 hours and then still at the end they'd be like, what happened? I'm like, stop it.
Stop asking.
Where were you? Where have you been? You're not getting credit for this. And so I always want folks to feel comfortable.
Yep.
But I also want folks to know that that is part of their story and part of their identity, but that is not how I see them.
Right.
I see them as a holistic human.
That's amazing.
Because that's really important. And
That's
nobody
so
wants to be seen as like a pity party.
No one.
Like nobody
well,
wants that.
some people do.
Some people do. But normally
They're called narcissists.
Yes, it's called narcissist. But so that is what I do in the 9 to 5. And so, and then I sometimes teach on campus, sometimes in the American Studies department. And I've also been teaching career and professional development.
Nice.
So I'll be teaching that again in the fall. That's been fun.
That's fantastic.
So
at what, you want to tell us the name of the school?
Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, there you go.
Cal State Fullerton. So
Nice.
Got my degrees.
Man.
Go Titans.
State.
Go Titans.
That's right.
Go
Yeah.
Titans.
But
They have a great
but it's an
baseball
elephant
team.
though, right?
It's Tuffy the Titan.
It's a good one.
And
He's cute.
yeah, he's adorable.
And they have a great baseball team.
And actually,
legitimately, one of the best.
Technically, I should clarify. I believe it was told to us a few years ago that Tuffy is actually a they.
Oh,
Yeah.
Tuffy's a they.
Tuffy's a they.
Good job, Tuffy.
Right? Good job.
Go
Right?
Tuffy.
So, those are the
Love them.
the day jobs, and then Haunted OC. I was like, okay, I would.
Do you get paid to do the Haunted OC?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you get paid to do the podcast?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
Yeah. Not everyone like.
Man, I'd love that.
I
right?
would too.
Trust me. They were like, we'll give you this, and I was like, I would do this for free, but okay.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
take money.
It was a little bit wild because after doing podcasting and guesting on friends' podcasts and stuff in, much more DIY setups,
Sure.
which is how most of us do podcasting.
Hi, that would be us.
The first day I walked down to the Warner Brothers Ranch
Shut the fuck up.
to record pre-shutdown because we started pre-COVID and then finished at home.
That's what she
But
said.
right. We started on the ranch and then we finished at home. It sounds like a good wedding.
Sounds like a great wedding.
Or horseback riding. I don't know. But it was. I walked in the first day and I was just like, when is the camera crew gonna pop out?
Right.
And the team kept saying like, why do you keep saying that? I'm like, because this is surreal to me. Like I'm in a recording booth. Like I've done stuff before, and like my room producer Dana was so great. Like, what can I get you? What do you need? And I'm like, oh, I am not bougie.
No.
Like I am of the like. I'm with you.
I'm the DIY.
Like, trust me,
podcast.
I'm not.
I don't
gonna
need
be,
the fucking things.
Yeah, and one of my guests had called. He's like, "Do I need to bring my own equipment?" I'm like, "No, just wait." And then I get a text from him, and he's like, "This is amazing." I'm like, "I know." So it was an incredible experience. I'm so grateful for it.
That's crazy.
I'm so grateful it saw the light of day because a lot of things that stopped in COVID.
Did not restart. Yeah.
And so that's the joy of the paranormal being timeless.
That's true.
Right? Like,
that's so
being
true.
timeless.
Also, with people having so much time on their hands,
Yes.
like that's why we started this podcast, was
Yeah.
because I was supposed to start teaching.
Yeah.
And then joke's on me. Do you want to teach human sexuality in the fall of 2020? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yes, I do.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't.
Guess
So
what?
we did this where I could just educate anyone who would listen on things that I felt important
It's so
to learn
important.
about.
It's so important.
Well, some of them are. No, I feel like everything's important. But
And here's the thing. What you might think is a throwaway might hit someone else
You know
really
what?
important.
absolutely correct.
Like, oh, I needed to hear that.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very fucking true. I have a tip of the day.
Yeah, let's hear this tip of the day.
Wow, you were Johnny on the fucking spot with that. Like normally. Wow. Literally one of my favorite pieces of music.
I was about to say, I kind of want that just like when I'm working with students. To be, here you go.
Just push a button.
Get them, that really get their attention in class.
Nathaniel Hornblow.
Oh, nice.
Wrote that.
Fantastic.
Virginity is a social construct. This is my tip of the day. We've had an actual entire ass episode on how virginity is a social construct, and I mention it frequently throughout the podcast, but I just want to remind you all that virginity is a social construct. It's not something you can hold in your hand. It's not something you can see. It is something that as a culture, we have decided exists. It's a tool we use to mark a before and after. It is a tool that we rate the chastity of girls and the experience of boys. A pre-intercourse girl is pure, and a pre-intercourse boy is inexperienced. A post-intercourse girl is defiled, impure, loose, or immoral, whereas a post-intercourse boy is experienced. Some cultures and communities place so much importance on virginity that they have virginity testing or virginity rituals where they stick their fingers into the so-called virgin, and if she doesn't bleed, she is considered unpure and she is considered someone who has defiled her future husband. Because if there is blood, that means apparently she is a virgin. We have talked about it on this podcast, but I will say it again. The hymen does not exist for everyone. Some individuals don't have a hymen. Some hymens close over the opening of the vaginal canal. Some of them don't. Some of them are very small pieces of skin. Some people don't even have one. Some people's break when they use a tampon for the first time, when they ride a bicycle for the first time, if they fall and hurt themselves, if they ride a horse. The hymen and that piece of skin can tear repeatedly. It can grow back. It can stay gone. It is not a marker or an indicator of purity or impurity. It is a flap of skin. And the fact that cultures are still using this idea to promote purity in women is asinine to me. Virginity is also a social construct because it leaves out an entire population of people. If you say that virginity is the penetration of a vagina, you have left out the entire population of homosexual men because they don't penetrate vaginas. So they're virgins forever. You also leave out heterosexual men because they don't have a hymen. So if you can't break their hymen, are they virgins forever? So really, is the only person we're placing this virginity construct on cisgendered heterosexual women who are maybe born with a hymen or maybe not. My tip of the day is for you to rethink your ideas around virginity and look at it as a social construct. Virginity isn't a thing. Your sexual experiences should be meaningful for you, should teach you something, should show you how to be intimate, should give you lessons each time. Should be a way for you to explore your body. It should not be a lesson in morality or immorality. And that is my tip of the day. Oh, sandwich it? I love the sandwich. I feel like it does need to be played twice, though, because it's so meaningful.
I was hoping. I was like, is he going to play it the second time?
I didn't do it. It was a ghost, guys.
Perfect.
This room is
See?
haunted.
To be fair, I don't think I bring ghost places, but the Kellogg house where I do the tours, that is the cool thing I was going to say too, is like it is indoors. So we're inside an old Victorian house for most of the tour. So maybe I could, I don't know, a little ghost in my pocket.
Little
boop,
attachment.
Just a little boop.
Little Casper.
Try not to have an attachment.
Hang on to him just for a minute and then take him back.
Just, yeah.
Maybe he wants to go on a vacation.
I'm there a few times a month. So it's like.
I mean, maybe he just wants to get out of the house every once in a while.
A change of custody.
The origin of purity culture, or the faith-based purity movement, from my research, goes back to the 90s. Yes? For you too?
Yes, but yes and.
Yes and, right?
Yes.
Good improv.
It is good improv.
Thank you.
Really, evangelical Christians of the 1960s started believing that society's problems, like the rise of HIV and AIDS epidemic in the 70s and the 80s, and the increase in STIs and teen births in the 1990s, could all be placed back on purity and virginity culture. Not the fact that no one was being educated about sex education during those days. We can't blame it on that. Why would we blame it on that? That's so stupid.
Responsibility.
God. And evangelical Christians really set forth this idea that we need to focus on abstinence until marriage. And Ronald Reagan, God damn it, fuck that guy, really began
The actor?
The actor.
The actor. Yeah, it's terrible cowboy. Really brought this idea forward, and it was passed on to the Bushes. And even in the Clinton administration, there were millions, if not billions of dollars being poured into abstinence-only education and purity culture. The idea of taking a vow of purity, or what is it? Oh God, what is it? With the ring that says...
like the purity ring?
Yeah, it has a saying on it.
Well, you're not talking about like the Mormon choose the right ring, are you?
Not the choose the right,
Okay.
but there's another ring. It's like will not fuck or something. It's like, it's a saying.
I would absolutely I think like there's been ones like I will
won't
wait
fuck.
or
Right.
like yeah,
I will wait,
Here's
but there's
the thing.
another one, too.
If there's a way to market in the world of Christianity, they
Come
have
on.
found it.
Good God.
Prime example.
Jesus action figures.
Well, I have those. I do have those. I have two of those actually. I have a couple.
Amazing.
I have a Jesus. He's still MIB Mitten box, but I got from a Christian bookstore once. A Jesus action figure where it was like, and it came with a collector's card to show you like scenes from the Bible. And I kid you not, the collector's card that came with my Jesus action figure was the crucifixion. Swear to you. But in addition to that, when I was in my real churchy time.
Oh yeah, I did churchy time too.
Real churchy time.
How long did you do?
Like it's a prison sentence.
Kind of is.
20 plus years.
Oh God.
Yeah. 20-ish years in there.
Were they your formative years?
Teenage years.
Mine was like 10 to 18.
Yeah. So I came into church. Like my parents were like, my dad was an immigrant, but he was very like spiritual and like God and I have an agreement because my dad suffered horrible sexual abuse at the hands of the Church of England.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad didn't love church. He
Great.
was surprised, right?
Shocking.
Shocking. And like could not even be in a church building if there's a Corpus Christi on the wall, or if the pastor or priest
Triggers.
would be in robes.
Oh yeah.
Just he couldn't be inside. And so it was kind of like you know, I was taught like as a kid, like, oh, you say your prayers or whatever, but there was not like religion in the house. And I got taken, you know, I bless parents who are like, someone's like, oh, we'll take them for an afternoon or whatever. So I was like taken to a Mormon church for a while as a kid with my neighbors. That didn't really, like, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I went to vacation Bible school, I think, in junior high, right?
Sure. I did the same. I went to a church camp for a weekend.
Like we were not, we were not financially good. And then like my friend's family was like, do they want to go to this free thing?
We'll
It's
sponsor the trip. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, okay. So things like that. And I think I started kind of being on a spiritual path like in junior high because I was searching for something. I'm also a big feeler. So I think like looking for that meaning and
the family aspect,
that,
the feeling
those kinds of things.
Community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, but then also feeling like an outsider most of my life.
Right.
So of course I want those
questioning things that you're not supposed to question.
Yeah. So,
right. I asked a question of my youth pastor once. I was like, is there snowboarding in heaven?
I mean, that's important.
I would really like to know.
Right.
If there's snowboarding in heaven. And am I allowed to have sex in heaven? Like I used to pray every night before I went to bed. Every single night I had to say my prayers. And my prayers went like this. Dear God, thank you for my family. Thank you for my friends. Please don't let me die a virgin. Please let me have sex before the second coming. Phrasing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like I literally would pray to not, because they all talked about the second coming. It was happening.
Yeah.
In my teenage years, Jesus was coming back. Revelations was happening. The earth was going to get taken over by sinners, and we were all going to get resurrected into heaven.
So the church...
I just really wanted to come before that happened.
Sure. The church I went to wasn't talking about that. Okay. I remember being... But here's like, I remember being at a party one night. Like a hangout party. Not like a party, but like...
A kickback.
A kickback, yes. And I remember one of the guys was like... Well, you know about the rapture, right? And I'm
my
like,
God.
I was like, what? And they're like,
I'm
the rapture.
being activated.
And then I was like, no.
Ooh.
And then he like laid it all out. And he was not a Christian, but he had been taught all this. And I was just like, what? And it freaked me out. Like, I can't even watch end of the world movies as a grown adult because I get such bad dreams. So I was just like, I'm going to get beheaded. I'm going to get beheaded.
Yeah.
And so...
People are going to fall, like the planes. People are going to get taken to heaven. Yep. Planes are going to fall out of the sky because captains of airplanes are going to get taken in the resurrection, and the bad people are going to get left behind. Left Behind was the scariest fucking series in the entire world.
I'm gonna tell you that I went on a date with a guy from a Bible study once.
Oh my God.
He was real pretty. But his idea of our date was come over, we'll have dinner, and then I want to show you this movie.
With Cameron Kirk.
And he showed me Left Behind.
Left Behind with Cameron Kirk.
I was like, this Kirk Cameron?
Kirk Cameron?
Yeah, Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron.
Kirk
okay.
Cameron. But I like Cameron Kirk. That's good too.
He's the porn version of...
Yes. Rule 34, right? Rule 34.
There it is.
So
out there.
I was just like sitting there like, what is that? Like,
how am I on this date right now?
How is this date happening?
How is this date
ending? And I've had
ending?
some doozies of dates, but that was like, okay. Your belief pool is different than mine.
Right.
And that is fine.
The intensity,
yes.
A little high.
But when I started going to church as a teenager, I had just... I'm so sorry if I'm making noise with this table over here, Rob.
We have so much noise. It's fine. We have a fan. It's fucking 95 degrees in Huntington Beach. I don't give a shit.
I just crash into things. I'm just like bull in a china shop. But I started going to church as a teenager, right? Like literally, I kid you not, like a month or two after I lost my virginity.
Oh shit.
And so
you couldn't take the will not fuck pledge.
I couldn't take, but here's the thing. Me just wanting to fit in, I was like, tell no one. Tell no one, but feel constantly like you're at a deficit.
Oh, yeah.
And then what made it compoundingly worse is that I had another, like a few boyfriends down the road.
Sure.
He was sexually abusive.
Oh, but honestly, because of purity culture, because of what religion feeds people as an idea of what women's sexuality is, there's a very horrible analogy that was done at my church where...
Let's hear it.
They got a rose and they had all the girls, okay? Not the boys.
Mm-hmm. Never the boys.
Just the girls. The boys stood off to the side and there was like 7 or 8 of us. And they handed us a white rose. Because white as snow is pure.
Pure.
They handed us a white rose and they told us to pluck a petal and throw it on the ground and pass it to each person. And we had no idea. They were like, here's a rose, smell the rose, pluck a petal, and pass it to the next person. And by the time it got around the circle, this rose was like mutilated. Decimated. And they were like, that is what happens when you have sex before marriage.
Uh-huh.
You become a dead flower. A dead, ugly, unwanted, awful flower.
Yep. No one will ever want you.
Nobody wants you.
No one wants you.
I'll take them.
So what that does is create this sense of ownership within the women of the Christian church, right? To say, it's my job to be pure.
Yep.
It's my job to not have sex. It's my job to not tempt men. And it's my job to uphold this purity. And if I can't do that, I'm a whore. And if somebody wants to have sex with me, they should be able to do that. There's also all of these rules in the Bible and rules in Christian communities where if you are with a man, you don't get to say no to him when he wants to have sex, because women do not have as much sexual desires as men as far as the Christian community is concerned. Women are less sexual. So if your significant other wants something from you, you really can't say no because they want something more than you do. So you have to keep them happy.
And it's really like... it's also, I think, a real misinterpretation of the Bible.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're talking about, like, women give unto your husbands. But when you then, hey, everybody, Jesus was a feminist. Just a heads up. And probably married to Mary Magdalene.
Bro, most likely.
Because most rabbis would be married.
Yeah.
He was a rabbi.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't, they would have said something.
Jesus was Jewish. I don't know if people know this.
He's a Jew. He's a Jew.
Jesus was totally Jewish.
He's like...
Which means there's a completely different doctrine that he was following than Christians believe, or Catholics.
Well,
and they adopted him because they're like, this guy's pretty fucking cool. He's got long hair. He's got a mustache. He's like saying all this cool shit. Like, we should just adopt this guy. And then they fucked everything he said twice over and baked it on Sunday.
Well, one of the things that I like... So I'll give some historical context. This is where the academic part
Here
comes
it
in
is
for me. So when we talk about Christianity in evangelical Christianity in the United States, that...
You mean the far right?
Well, this is what we're going to talk about, right? Because when we are looking at evangelical Christianity and the conservative right do not really start linking until the late 60s, early 70s in our country.
Yes.
And this is where the anti-communists, anti-Semitic,
anti-women,
all these things. And it's like, oh, we can get on board with this, right?
How do we push our agenda? Oh, let's talk about family. Let's talk about creating life. Let's talk about promoting a good genetics and good schools and good morals and putting money in the pockets of politicians who can push these laws forward.
Right. And you're also dealing with, and this is where we have to like think about, because it's hard when we're not in it.
Right.
To think about these things that many of the people, especially like being in Orange County, behind the orange curtain, all this stuff, right? But you had the military industrial complex.
Yep.
Orange County was a military town
El
for
Toro.
many years.
Yeah.
El Toro's right there.
Hey, shout out to Terry Weller, my father-in-law, who just recently passed away. We are dedicating this season to him, and he was based at El Toro in the 1970s.
Thanks for your service,
Thank
Terry.
you for your service, Terry.
And rest well.
And rest well.
So you have this military complex. So you have a lot of people that have come out of not just the Korean War, but then the Vietnam War. And so anything...
And the Cold War.
And the Cold War, right?
Yeah.
And so we have all these things happening, and anything that looks anything like communism...
Oh, yeah.
They have to fight against, because if not, what is their purpose for annihilating people?
Right.
Right? This is a weird, and please understand, I am in no way in favor of the Confederate South. I am not. But part of the reason that mindset and that ideology has not died fully is because what happens when you have a war? Your family dies. family, thousands and hundreds of thousands of people die, and then you lose. If it is for nothing, then what was it for?
So you have to make it be worth something.
There's a really good book called This Republic of Suffering, all about the Civil War, and talking about not just the national cemetery system, but that ideology of like, why has that come back so hard? That's why. They needed to give it purpose and reason.
Okay. That actually makes sense.
It doesn't mean it's right.
No.
But you have to have this purpose, right? And the same thing.
All these people died. What was the reason if not for something to stand for? And if you have someone who represents that, who's this person who can represent that for you in the country, you're going to back that person.
So then you think about people and veteran, and I'm a daughter of a veteran, daughter-in-law of a veteran. Like I work with vets. But let's say you go off to war and you kill people because they've been made into the enemy.
Right.
And so if you don't stand behind the idea, and I know many veterans that are like, I got out. That is not my thing anymore.
Yep.
So this is me not generalizing veterans as a whole by any means. But if you still hold on to that ideology and those beliefs and that you have this duty and this purpose, you then will continue to fight against that.
Right.
And so you will continue to have that confirmation bias and be reinforced into anything that looks like the very thing you were fighting against.
Right.
So this is why equity and equality for so many people, especially of that generation, is hard.
Yeah.
Because it looks like the very thing they were told to hate and vehemently fight against.
Right.
Right? So you have that. You also have in the 60s and 70s some things that come along called,
Sexual revolution?
Sexual revolution.
Free love?
Free love. Betty Friedan and the feminine mystique.
Hell yeah.
The rise of
the feminist culture.
Right? Women of color trying to take their power.
Trans women of color starting Stonewall riots.
Black Panthers.
Black Panthers.
So you have all these things coming up in the midst of like people going like, oh, this looks a lot like the thing we fought against. Yep. And so they get pushed to the other side.
Right.
And so when you think about, one of the, were you ever exposed to the now since apologized for book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye?
No, but I read about it. And he's actually come forward and said,
he has said,
I am so sorry that I wrote that. That was not my intent. I can't believe that I did that.
Explain. What is this book about?
So
super evangelical Christian.
So there's a book that came out in the 90s called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. And the gentleman that wrote it basically purported as a young 20-something-year-old that you shouldn't date people.
Nope.
That it should be just about like
finding your marriage.
Courting.
Yep.
And friendship. And like no even going towards dating unless like you're ready to marry.
You should never date. You should never flirt. You should never get any sexual feelings towards someone until you're ready to marry them. And then you still should not kiss and you should not do anything physical with them until you are married.
Until you're married.
And if you do, you lose all morality. You lose all like viability as far as like a human being who's worthy of love, a human being who's worthy of God's love, a human being who's worthy of your family's love. It is a gigantic book of shame. And when he wrote this, he was like, dating is for the weak, dating is for whores, dating is for sluts, and dating is not for anyone who believes in purity culture whatsoever.
Yeah, Joshua Harris is the author of the book, and he has come out and said like, I'm so sorry, but I'm gonna tell you, as a young woman who had experiences and was dating, and again feeling so much shame for my sexual experiences and my desires.
Oh yeah,
and also dealing with abuse I couldn't talk about because you couldn't talk about abuse because you weren't supposed to be doing that in the first place.
Right.
So it's kind of your fault.
Right.
Like it was
right.
So many layers to it.
And you were probably wearing something that made him want you to have sex with him.
Probably. Even though I was such a tomboy. Such a tomboy. To the point where in college people were like, "You're lesbian, right?" And I'm like, "No."
Wow, rude.
And then they're like,
assumptive. Like,
yeah. And then someone in my theater department was telling everyone I was, which
Oh.
I was like, I have no problem with lesbianism, but I am not one. So
maybe don't make that assumption.
maybe don't tell people that. It was weird. But it was, I was dating a guy, and
You read that book?
he, one day, this is just right in this wheelhouse. After we had already had sex, by the way,
Great.
we went to the mall to recommit ourselves to our purity,
God damn it.
to buy purity rings.
Great.
Yep.
You went to the mall to buy
Yeah.
purity rings.
I
This
mean,
is the first fucking
Right?
problem.
You went to the mall to buy
Cool.
purity rings, even though we had had sex. And we got into the car, and he's like, "I think you should listen to this." And he put on like the audiobook of it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, and it wasn't about like, I feel really convicted about like, you should listen to this.
Yeah, you.
You should listen to
The
this.
one who I had sex with?
The one who I had
You
sex
should
with.
probably listen to this because it's your fault.
Yeah.
By the way, the phrase is, I will wait.
I will wait.
That's
I
the
will
phrase.
wait.
It's written on a ring.
I looked it up. There's many, but I saw that too.
Yes.
But there's many that people write.
So I'm going to give my statistic of the day, and then we are going to take a quick break.
Let's do it.
I'm going to tell you a statistic that has something to do with the percentage of young girls, you don't get to look, young girls who this year will take an abstinence pledge. Either I will wait, or choose the right, or I won't fuck. Whatever the purity pledge is that they're about to take. This percentage, this is what we're going to talk about in the statistic of the day.
It's the stat of the day.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's the stat of the day.
It so is.
It's the stat of the day.
According to a J Marriage and Family Journal article from 2016, this percentage of girls/young women will take an abstinence pledge this year. What percentage? And I'm going to tell you right now, in the 2020 census, there were 21 million individuals classified as young women or girls. So between the ages of 12 and 18, there was 21 million of those individuals
right?
in America.
Okay.
In America. What percentage of them will take an abstinence-only purity pledge this year? We always go to the guest first.
60%.
Okay?
I'm going to go with my classic 69.
Okay. Just as an FYI to the audience, while you formulate your answers and while we prepare for our first break, 70% of individuals have had sex by the time they turn 19. So, while people might be taking a purity pledge, 70% or 5 million people of that 20, it's a lot of those young people are having sex before they turn 19 years old. Even with these purity pledges, even with the ideology that is forced upon individuals in schools that teach abstinence only, or schools that teach Christian-based curriculum, only 13 states in this country require sex education be medically accurate. So the rest of the states can 13. Only 13 require medically accurate sex education.
And how many of those are Republican owned?
None of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew that percentage.
None of them. None of them. Of the states that have abstinence-only based education, the top 5 of STI and teen pregnancies in the country are in states that require or that have abstinence-only education. And most of the individuals who have these purity pledges come from those states. So when we get back from this break, I will go ahead and reveal the statistic of the day. What percentage of young girls and young women will take an abstinence pledge this year? While we take our break, take a moment and look up purity balls. We'll be right back. Want to get something off your chest? Have a burning sex question? Call now for a chance to be live on air with What's Your Position? 513-6969-SEX. That's 513-6969-739. We will answer your questions, hear your comments, and play you live on air. Call us soon.
Girl, you'll be a woman soon. Love you so much, can't count all the ways I'd die for you, girl, and all they can say is he's not your kind. They never get tired of putting me down, and I never know when I come around.
Welcome back, fellow humans.
What I'm gonna find.
Speaking of Jews, I
your
love
position?
Neil Diamond. Sorry. Sorry, we're talking about Jesus and then Neil Diamond.
I didn't know Neil Diamond was Jewish.
Maybe he is the second coming.
Yeah,
He's got the long hair. I mean,
Oh my God, and he's fantastic.
I was
by the way,
obsessed
I think I wanna talk about
with-
Jesus. I think he was gay. Dude, 12 disciples. He had 12 dudes following him.
I think he may have been bi.
Okay, I'm okay with that. But he
Alexander the
definitely liked
Great.
the dudes.
Alexander the Great was bisexual.
And there's a lot. Here's the thing. I love that people that are not informed are just like, this just showed up. No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
No, bro.
No, nah, bro.
No, it did not.
And that's for me. Like, I hate all religion, every single one. But I believe that there was a Jesus. I think there's been scientific fact that there's been a
No,
dude.
that human existed.
Yeah, so I'm
Yes.
okay with that. If science
He
proves
really,
it, I
no, he
don't-
really existed. All of the
But,
magic.
but
that
Mary
surrounds-
definitely cheated on Joseph. Definitely cheated on Joseph.
Mary did not get immaculately incepted. No,
No.
that's not a thing.
Everything I've learned from this podcast, don't think that's possible.
Are we gonna lose the conservative right audience?
We don't have a conservative right audience, and if we do,
didn't think so.
I wish they
thanks
would
for
listen. So they could
continuing.
learn some fucking things.
they might.
But
I feel like this is educational for a lot of people.
call them cowards. They're too much of a pussies to listen to this podcast.
They would just get really angry and probably
'Cause
turn
it's
it off.
the truth. It's the truth.
But we have listeners from every state except 2. North Dakota, oddly enough,
Okay.
and then something on the East Coast. I want to say Rhode Island. I want to say that.
What's going on,
Look
Rhode
it up.
Island?
I'll look it up.
I don't know. But it's upsetting.
I love. I just lost my thought there. I love things.
I love
love-
things too.
I love things.
I love people. I love
no, I
things.
know what it was because you dropped the P word. You dropped pussy,
Oh, that's
and
a
I
penis.
learned last night from a friend of mine a new word, a new kind of maybe not new, but new to us in America word for slang for female genitalia.
Is it slang for female genitalia or slang for being a coward?
Slang for female genitalia.
Fantastic. Lay it
Does it
on.
start
Yes.
with a C? I'm just kidding.
Yes, it actually does.
It's not cunt. It's cunny.
No, clunge.
Clun.
Yes.
That's a metal band.
So
come on,
right,
you stole
I
that from a
also
metal
think
band.
it's an old timey job you had because so here's
Plunger.
a clunger. I had to pull some clunge. So there is currently my friend is a major Arsenal football fan,
Okay.
and we were talking that one of the Arsenal players is currently on trial for domestic violence.
Okay.
Not great.
No.
Not great. And his
Not surprising.
not surprising. And his texts were released. And there was a text in which he said, I can't wait, something to the effect of, I can't wait until she leaves so I can go to the bar and pull some clunge.
It wasn't an autocorrect.
No, clunge.
Clunge.
And he looked it up. He was like, I didn't think at this age I could find a new slang term for this. And it indeed is.
Wow.
Yeah, clunge.
We got to put that in the lexicon of what's your position.
That's a T-shirt.
Clunge.
The clunge.
Pulling the clunge.
North Dakota and Delaware are
Thank
the two
you.
states that don't listen to this podcast. Yet.
Hi.
oh,
yet.
we're in
I'm in
Delaware.
Delaware.
For those of you old enough to know Wayne's World, oh, look, we're in Delaware.
I've got a gun. Let's go to a Broadway show. Your statistic of the day was me asking you what percentage of young women this year will take an abstinence-only pledge.
I said 60. Rob said 69.
It's 12. 12%.
12%?
I'm glad it's that low, though.
Out of 21 million young girls of the census in 2020, that leaves 2 million who are taking that's still a lot of fucking people. 2 million young girls are going to take an abstinence-only pledge. And only about 4% of them are going to stick to that. Which means you're going to have a lot of girls who have either confusion, shame, guilt, or rage.
So like half of them are not going to do it, you said. 12.
Oh, like
6.
a third of, like 2/3 of them aren't going to stay with that pledge.
And I think also, too, they won't stick to it as far as in practice, but they will claim they're sticking to it.
Correct.
And, I actually heard a pastor give a very good analogy for sex once, believe it or not.
Okay.
He basically said, like, the way that we teach sex in church is as if I told you your whole life, you cannot drive a car or you will die. You will die, you will die, you will die. You cannot drive a car, you cannot drive a car, you cannot drive a car. And then you turn 16 and they're like, okay, drive a car. And it's the same thing with sex. You can't have sex, you can't have sex, you can't have sex until you're married. You can't have sex. Bad things will happen. You get married. Okay, now have sex.
I'm going to do you one better.
Yes.
Are you ready for this analogy?
I'm ready.
It's the analogy I give in my classes.
Yes, please.
Imagine that you are told your entire life cars will kill you. They absolutely are going to kill you. And you can't drive cars ever because you don't know how. And you're actually, if you drive a car, you're like the worst kind of person.
Sure.
Then one day you're told to get in a car with someone else who has never driven a car. And both of you have to drive this vehicle with zero knowledge of how to drive a car at all. And you have to get from point A to point B safely in the car with both of you who know nothing about driving a car. Neither one of you has any fucking clue.
That's horrifying.
Horrifying. Sex is a normal human behavior. The crazy thing is...
I'll stop you right there. It's a normal animal behavior.
Animal behavior.
Every fucking animal basically does
any
this.
animal... Flies have sex.
Yeah.
Insects.
There are...
There's some asexual ones. Like the frogs may do themselves.
Frogs can change gender.
Right.
Same with seahorses.
And fish.
Yeah.
And there are a species of primate that use sex to solve conflict.
Right.
Instead of fighting, they just do it.
They just
Dude,
fuck.
that sounds like a reality show. Let's
I
do
know,
it.
Right? Do you and me, baby.
Primate
That's what it should be
Island.
called. Primate Island. It's a normal human behavior. And the fact that we use it as a manipulative tool to tell women that they are less than or that they are responsible for the morality of the world is disgusting, first of all, and more wrong than you can imagine. So because of purity culture, the rate of HPV, teen pregnancies, and sexual assault within relationships is exponentially higher, especially within states that promote abstinence only. So Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Florida, and Texas have some of the highest rates of teen pregnancy, have some of the highest rates of STIs, and have some of the highest rates of domestic violence within teenage relationships than any other state in the United States. America as a whole has some of the highest rates of all of those things as a first world country, because we don't educate people about this natural human behavior, the hormones that course through us from the time we hit puberty. And instead of saying everyone who participates in this behavior has a responsibility, we basically say, women, you are responsible for not dressing like anything. You're responsible for controlling your emotions and your hormones. You're responsible for saying no to men, although when you say no, you're a prude and you will get made fun of. But stay steadfast, because when you get to your husband, you will be an intact rose. Yeah. And your husband will appreciate that more.
Oh, yeah.
which is bullshit.
Well, it's
Because who wants to have sex with someone who's never had sex? That's such a fucking awkward.
so
That's why I don't
awkward.
understand like Islam, where like the 22 virgins.
I don't
like,
want 22
ew,
virgins,
dude. I want 22 whores, dude.
I had a
That
joke.
sounds like fucking heaven.
I had a joke in my act about like the idea that because apparently not only do the men get 22 virgins, but so do the women. And I was like,
no.
Really?
they didn't.
No, I'm saying no, thank you.
No, but that's what I was saying. I was like, in my act, I was like, oh my God. That would just be like the most, like just 22 dudes trying to do the around the arm, like stretch.
Oh my God.
22 dudes, 22 guys like grabbing your boob like it's a weird stuffed animal because they don't know anything about it.
22 guys rubbing your left labia instead of your clit.
Not understanding that they should have clipped their nails. Like so many things.
And none of them showered.
None of them.
Oh my
No.
gosh.
22 virgins sounds like a nightmare. That's a nightmare scenario.
And I think the other thing that people have to recognize as well, and I saw this a lot, where this idea of waiting until marriage and waiting until you are married, when hormones are at an all-time high,
Correct.
it pushes people into false intimacy and pushes people who maybe should not get married
Correct.
to
Like
get
18-year-olds?
Right. And then it's like, oh, they got divorced, or they're in unhappy situations,
Or they have children.
or the thing that hurts my heart so much as somebody who vehemently supports the LGBTQIA plus communities is people who are force themselves into cisgendered heterosexual relationships
When they are, in fact,
when they are
none of those things.
None of those things. And or people that can't live their true identity, so they're
Right.
just known as a bachelor.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and
But to be a bachelor as a man is so much more acceptable in society than to be a spinster.
well, you
as a
can't be an
woman.
old maid, Ash.
No, you can't.
No.
You have to get married.
And I remember saying to someone, because I didn't get married until my 30s, my
Same.
mid 30s. And I remember someone from my church community being like, oh, you know, you'll find someone, blah, 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 all this stuff. Like, one, I've never had trouble dating. I've been fine.
I'm fine.
Everyone settle down. But still good now. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Sean. Super kidding. I'm kidding. Look
Your
me-
husband is super handsome, by the way.
Thank you. He's a
Viking.
He's a Viking. He's a tall dude.
Straight up fucking Viking, dude.
He's
Like,
6'5.5", and
the beard on this man is aggressive.
the beard is currently not happening.
No.
Well, here's why. Working public facing during the pandemic, he had to wear a mask, and then the mask would dent the beard. Couldn't have a dented beard.
No.
But still,
I definitely had the dented beard.
yeah, dented beard. And most recently, I was with some students at a leadership event at Disneyland, and as we finished up the event, some of our spouses came to meet some of us in the park. Like we hadn't seen them all week, and one of my students, she's like, "That's your husband?" And I was like, yeah. She's like, okay, queen. And I was like, I had so many questions that are not appropriate to ask my student, but I just wanted to be like, who did you think I was married to? I want to know what you thought.
What did you think was
Because
happening
like,
in
I
my
get
life?
that I am like very goofy, very nerdy. Like I almost said girdy. That's a different
Actually, that's
condition.
like goofy and
I think
nerdy.
that's another word for a vagina.
Yeah, a girdy.
A girdy.
The old
Yeah.
girdy.
Chungy?
Clunge. Chungy. We can make it chungy too. Man, her chungy. Ooh.
That sounds, yeah.
You're being very chungy right now.
You're such a chungy. So
God,
chungy.
what a chunk.
But, you know, I remember this person from my church saying like, oh, you'll find someone. And I said, that's,
Thank you.
Thank you. One, but two, like, that's, and I said to him, it's so easy for you to say because you've been married since your early 20s. I was like, you have no idea what it is like to date now. And I especially have no idea what it is to date now.
No.
Because I'm just like, how do y'all keep from being on Dateline? And I mean, as the lead story, right? Like, how is my Twitter friend Josh Mankiewicz not reporting on more of you because
Right.
it's scary out there.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying. And
it's hard work.
it's hard. And then I see, like, one of my favorite TikTok trends is when the women put together the montages of all the same photos that guys are using. And a couple of my friends are dating apps. And so with my guy friends, I'm like, I want to see your photos. I need to see your photos. I need to see what you're putting out in the world.
Photos.
I'll show you mine later.
Okay. Because my one friend is a fisherman, but he's
Oh,
like, no, but
Darcy.
no, but he's like, I don't have any pictures holding a fish. Like, nobody wants that. I was like, that's right. Nobody wants that, sir.
Do you know who wants that? The girls from Mississippi and Texas who have taken a purity pledge.
Sure.
Because
My
that's
friend
what
Justin
they're
is a
told
professional
to want.
fisherman, and he's married to a very pretty girl. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It can happen.
But did he lure her with pictures
Ooh,
of a fish?
good pun.
Right?
Well
Hello.
done.
Hey.
No, they're high school sweethearts.
So, right. But then again, it's like that whole, it's like the two that seem to come up a lot are the holding the fish.
Yeah.
And then the standing on top of the mountain with the arms wide.
With the arms open.
Right? Or my favorite when guys just have other people in the photo. It's like, who
Who
are
are you?
Which one are
Who
you?
the fuck are you?
And who's that? Who's her?
Why is she in this
Why is
photo?
she in that
There's
photo?
a baby.
Yeah, why is there a baby?
Whose baby is this?
I went on years ago, a guy I met online. I went on a date and like we had been chatting for a while before we went on the date. And he had said he had a kid and I was like, okay, how old is she? And he's like 8. And I'm like, okay.
Great.
8 is that's a good
It's a
age.
great
There's
age.
been enough time, like all that.
No diapers to change.
No diapers change.
Yeah.
And also like hopefully far enough away from that relationship
Yeah.
that's maybe not drama and
Right.
if
good
this
age.
goes
Yeah.
somewhere, I can be friendly with the ex, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we met and I saw his truck and I'm like, why is there a car seat in your car? And he's like, yeah, I told you I had a daughter. I'm like, yeah, you said she was 8. He's like, yeah, 8 months. Nope. He also catfished me a little bit because he, in his photos, was a very tall, broad-shouldered lumberjack-looking guy in
Got
the
it.
photos.
Right.
Except like Jack Spratt showed up like tall beanpole, like so thin. Like, and I was like, that's not what you look like.
That
in
is
your
not the
photos.
same.
That's not the same.
And you lied about the year. Like she's not even a year.
Not even a year. Like that's too close.
That's sneaky.
That was yeah. He also was very condescending.
God, red
And then
flags, like
when I
9,000
said,
red flags. Like
"You're
the NASCAR of red flags.
And Ash, you've known me a long time, and you know I'm hilarious.
Right.
And I said, "You're very condescending," and he was like, "You just don't get a dry sense of humor."
Oh, no. I love mansplaining. God, I love that.
So much.
God damn it.
Being a nerd, I go to a lot of comic conventions and different horror convention, all those. And my favorite is when shirts I have bought, like for myself, with fun, nerdy aspects. Men come up and
Explain what you're wearing.
I have a shirt. Ashley knows deeply of my love of Kiefer Sutherland because it's been a long time. And I have a
Who Ashley met snowboarding.
I did actually.
Yeah.
I met him at the Troubadour.
I rode a lift with him. I rode a chairlift with him and talked to him. It's the longest chairlift in Mammoth. It takes 20 minutes. It goes from side to side.
You and Keith.
And the bartender that my husband and I had got drinks from the night before, and he was hanging out with our bartender, and our bartender sat down and was like, Mulligan. She called me her Mulligan because every time I walked up to her, she forgot my drink, even though I was tipping her really well. She's like, I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting your drink. You're my Mulligan. And I'm like, no problem. The next day I got on a chairlift. She was like, Mulligan. And I'm like, bartender. And I looked next to her. I was like, Kiefer. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, Kiefer fucking Sutherland. And we sat there and chatted about, life.
Yeah, I met him at a show at the Troubadour.
Love the Troubadour, by the way.
Such a great venue. And I was there seeing Rocco DeLuca. And then some other...
I haven't heard that name in for a
long time, right?
Wow.
Me too.
Rocco DeLuca, but then some other people we knew were opening. And Joel Beers from the OC Weekly was there. And I said... Okay, Joel, what is Kiefer here? He's like, yeah, he's right over there.
As a matter of fact, he's
and I was
sitting
like,
at the table over there.
So I went and talked to him. He was lovely. And then I realized, like, maybe too short for me. It's okay.
He's a little
But
short.
my love of Kiefer has brought me this amazing shirt that I got at a horror convention. And it is a mashup of the Santa Cruz Skateboards logo with the screaming hand, but it is him as David from the Lost Boys.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
it says Santa Carla. I love it. I love it. It hits the skater in me. It hits the horror person in me. And I was wearing this. And this guy walks up. He's like, so that shirt. And I'm like,
oh my God.
yeah, I bought it.
This
and then
motherfucker.
Yeah. And then I love the film Blade Runner. And I have a Blade Runner baseball tee with Rachel on it. And it's fantastic. And I've had that mansplained. I've also had people been like, points for the shirt. I'm like, shut up.
What points?
What
I don't
points?
need points. Fuck
I
off.
like me.
I like points for the shirt.
Yeah, but it was in a way like
I hear you. You're a chick. Okay.
Yeah,
Points
okay,
for you.
yeah.
Oh, you know what that is? Good job,
Oh, yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Okay, I get you. I
yeah,
get
it
you.
was like that. Like, because they were like, hey, points for the shirt. That's one thing, and not a snarky points for
I hear
Rachel. Like, settle down.
A little unofficial
Settle
sponsor. You should check out this fashion
Oh,
line. It's
fuck
called
yeah.
DOS Bootleg.
Oh, yeah, Das Bootleg
You
is
know them?
fantastic. My friend Kevin.
You're the first person ever to know
Ever.
what I'm
My
talking
friend
about.
Kevin has been buying their shirts for quite some time.
Years.
He buys
And
shirts.
so
I'm surprised I didn't wear one today.
Me too.
yeah, so I love Das Bootleg because there's so many times I'm like, that's a Das Bootleg shirt. And he's like, yeah.
I have
Unofficial
one,
sponsor, Das Bootleg.
13.com, I think it is. I have a shirt that just has a giant David, just like,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
and
Big
I
old
get
lost
so
boy.
many
That one?
compliments
Oh,
on
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So,
Yeah, mansplaining.
mansplaining.
Okay.
The shirt I'm wearing is a Chain Reaction.
Thank you.
They have beer there now.
That's what I learned. I was like, we may have some cocktails, and then Rob's wearing a Chain Reaction shirt. He's like, no, there's beer there now.
I feel like
Which
going,
I think should be their motto.
I feel like
Chain
going-
Reaction.
There's beer
there
now. I feel like going to a punk rock show at Chain Reaction is already a death sentence, and so having beer get added in is terrifying.
This room feels like Chain Reaction.
It really does.
It's really hot.
It smells
as far
better,
as
though.
like, thank you.
It smells so much better.
Thank you. As far as like mansplaining and toxic masculinity are concerned, it's woven into purity culture in so many ways. A lot of evangelical Christians, especially the mouthpieces of that movement, are men.
What?
I know.
What?
It's nuts. White, too. White men. A couple myths about purity culture. Losing your virginity before marriage means you're damaged goods. We've already discussed this, the rose, the chewing gum, the tape, where you put the tape on people over and
it
over again, and
loses
then the
its stick.
stew loses its stick. Fuck off. Losing, you don't lose anything when you have sex for the first time. You gain sexual knowledge. Every time you have sex, you gain something, whether it be a lesson, whether it be experience, whether it be something you liked or something you didn't like. Nothing is lost when you engage in consensual sex between two people. There's nothing lost.
But hopefully what you don't gain
Is an STI?
is an STI.
Yes, fact. Women are inherently not as sexual as men. Get fucked.
Shut up.
Fuck you, man. I can come 5 times. You know how many times my husband can come? Twice, if he's lucky.
I'm very jealous on that aspect.
I bet.
Like, I'm glad I don't have a period, but damn, I wish I could come like
Right?
5 and 10. I don't know.
Less
What's
sexual
the record?
than
I don't
men.
know. But
Get
yeah,
the fuck out of here.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact,
But we
women,
can pee stand up, so got you on that one.
I could pee standing up. It just goes everywhere.
Yeah, it's not as
Clean?
Streamy.
yeah. It's not as clean. It's not as directed.
It's not as sure.
Touche.
It's not as a sure shot.
Touche.
It's not as Beastie Boys, but it's close.
It's not as Beastie Boy.
Another myth in purity culture is that women should never say no to sex with their husband. So basically saying marriage is a free pass for men to say, I want to fuck, and a woman just basically has to lay down and agree.
Do you know that it's only been a few short decades since marital rape was outlawed?
Actually, marital rape is not outlawed in all states.
Right.
So that's fantastic
That's
news.
fun.
And it's not outlawed in numerous religions,
Yeah.
including Islam,
Yep.
where a woman cannot say no to her husband, even if she is, having diarrhea on the toilet or, in the middle of childbirth. You just can't say no. Or, just in the middle of dinner or has a headache or doesn't feel like having fucking sex. But there are some laws in some states that do not outlaw. In Ohio, I believe, if a woman is unconscious, a blowjob is not illegal because she can't say no. It's a fun fact for you.
Okay.
I don't know. She pointed at me. I don't know what you wanted.
One, I've got to back up to say, of course, when it comes to, because I do know folks that practice Islam and are amazing Muslims. This, not generalizing all, but you have to there are people that can take that to the extreme. Just like there are people in any religion that's like, my wife is my property.
Oh,
right?
God.
But when it comes to that's the thing I don't, and granted, you're not in your right mind if you're doing that, but like, how is a blowjob from an unconscious woman enjoyable at all?
I don't know.
Because
there's a lot of teeth.
A lot of teeth. Also,
there's no sucking.
There's none of the sucking.
There's no suction. I don't get it. Have you heard of a purity ball?
No.
God damn it, let me tell you.
Let's talk about... Wait. No.
Do you want to guess?
I have heard of a purity... So, me being very literal in many ways, when you said purity ball, I thought of an actual
No.
No. Purity ball is where young women go with their fathers.
Correct.
To be shown how women should actually be treated by a man.
Correct. Founded by evangelical Christian Randy Wilson and his wife Lisa in 1998, purity balls signify the importance of remaining pure until marriage. And young girls between the ages of 8 and 18 don wedding gowns and exchange rings with their fathers, vowing to stay chaste and pure until marriage with their fathers. And then they have dances and buffets like a wedding, an actual wedding. That
look on your face is the right
face that you should have.
I'm sorry the camera's not on me.
He looks like he's going to vomit.
This sounds disgusting.
This further identifies and emphasizes the idea that women are property passed from fathers to husband on their wedding day and have zero autonomy. Additionally, many studies have shown that people who engage in purity balls have sex earlier and higher STD rates than those who do not. Despite the criticism, purity balls remain popular in conservative areas of the United States, with advocacy groups like the Abstinence Clearinghouse selling tickets.
It's like the people that go by your house and give you checks, big checks and balloons. Oh, okay.
Selling tickets to purity balls around the nation where multiple fathers can come with their daughters and do mass ceremonies.
Nope.
Fuck that noise.
Nope.
Is there one for moms and sons?
Nope.
No. Of course not. Of course not.
Because when boys have sex...
It's called the patriarchy.
When boys have sex at a younger age, they are seen as experienced and just boys being boys.
Sorry, that sounds weird too. Sons and moms.
And the thing is too, is
so does dads and daughters.
Dads and daughters is horrifically confusing.
God.
And weird. And sexualizing your daughter. Because when they're but they're not sexually, but you are.
Yes, you are.
You are. Because even the thing you're focused on not being, you're focused on.
Correct.
But also too, and this is one of the things that is very frustrating to me is that there are men who have experienced horrific abuse and sexual coercion and rape and incest and molestation and all these things. And I know someone who I love very dearly who was taken advantage of by an older woman in his church.
Oh, wow.
And well before he was ever ready to have sex with anybody.
Oh, geez.
And that it was seen as of course, isn't that every dude's dream? And he's like, no, it was horrifying and traumatic and it was awful for me.
Yeah.
But again, it's these stories around what men are supposed to want,
right.
what cisgendered heterosexual men are supposed to want, which we're in a heteronormative society.
Correct.
We reinforce gendered ideas of what men should be and women should be. And America loves the gender binary.
Oh, we do.
I love everyone who's fighting against that so much.
We love to categorize.
We do.
It's our favorite thing as human beings is to categorize.
And we
pure, not pure. And virgin, not virgin.
Well, and that's the thing that...
Male, female.
Talking about purity culture as far as Sorry, Rob, I'm making so many noises right now.
You're okay.
Fired up. Just flip the table. Just like, and they're like, what was that? I'm like, Darcy got real mad and flipped the table.
Watch the YouTube video. You'll see.
But is also, and it's one of the terms, one of the phrases that cuts to my soul and makes me more angry than anything else in purity culture is the idea of I was guarding her heart.
Oh my
Which
God.
is this weird toxic purity dibs where guys don't have to be intentional with women.
Right.
They can say, well, I'm guarding her heart to another man. Basically like, I'm interested, but I don't know.
I'm putting dibs.
I'm putting
basically
dibs.
What
I don't
hear
know
on
what
that.
I want to do yet.
Right.
But I don't want you to do anything.
Right.
So I'm telling you, I'm guarding her heart, which it's like, you don't get to make that choice.
No.
You don't get to make that choice. And
No one gets to make your sexual choices for you.
when you are in a space where, like, I cannot tell you how much I would have loved in my early dating days for a man to actually just ask me on a date directly. But being in the church for so much of that, it was like, well, do you want to go get coffee?
Right.
Do you want to just hang out? Right? It was like Netflix and chill without the chill.
Without the Netflix.
Without any, like, because it was like, well, I just, we should get to know each other. We should pray together. Again, these intimacies that draw people together without actually getting to know
Right.
one another.
All you're getting to know is the religion side, the purity side, and no one's getting to know anything intimate about
Or
you.
what you're, and I have friends that have had fantastic marriages.
Sure.
And they were products of that. Fantastic. And they're still married and great. But it is definitely not a one size fits all.
No, and it's definitely not something you want to do by the book. That is not
No.
that is not the recipe for a good marriage. And those people who have those good marriages are fucking outliers.
I think, it's an anomaly. And I think that when you look at, like for myself, feeling for so many years in those communities that I was damaged or less than.
Right.
Because I couldn't even tell people.
The amount of abuse that you're willing to take when you feel like in your community, whether it be the religious community or your social community or your family community, if you are constantly told that you are less than, your opinion is less than, your pleasure is less than,
Oh, yeah.
your hormones are less than, what you're willing to take as far as abuse increases every time you are told you are less than. And so
Absolutely.
there is so much more abuse being doled out onto these women who are entrenched in purity culture than we have any fucking way to recognize. We don't even have a way to quantify the abuse that these people are suffering.
Well, and I think one of the things, and when I say the church, I'm talking about the larger general church, is the church does not know how to deal with abuse survivors
No,
at all. And I think about,
because they caused the abuse. And that would mean they'd have to take accountability for the abuse that they have endured on other people.
and to be fair, like my abuse was not a result of church, but
a little bit.
I mean, the guy that I was dating, that was the sexually abusive one, was not tied to church.
But do you not think that the ideals that were forced on you may have played a role in why you stayed in the relationship?
I mean, sure. I know what you're saying, because it was like I was being hurt and I couldn't tell anyone about it.
Right.
Because I wasn't
Because you didn't
supposed
want
to be doing that.
Because you weren't supposed to be doing that.
But then when I was hurting and trying to figure out how to navigate this, there was nobody to talk to because you weren't supposed to be doing that.
Right.
And when I see it, I get very angry when I see people that are rape survivors, incest survivors, trafficking survivors, all these things, where there's then this talk of this second virginity. You can
my
have a second
God.
virginity.
A born again virgin.
Like that kind of stuff, because it's like, it's what
You
people
can
did.
regrow your hymen for $19.99.
Yeah, I mean, but what these people endured was not their fault. And then to have to put this caveat of, well, we can make you clean again.
Imagine being the victim of sexual assault or rape or human trafficking and hearing the idea that every time you have sex with someone, you're a piece of gum, you're a piece of tape, you're a rose that gets a leaf torn off, and you are less than with each time. And knowing you didn't do this, you didn't ask for this, but because you have endured this sexual assault, be it complex and longitudinal or be it a one-time thing, to think that you have any sort of ownership of that shame because you had sex with someone, you are less sticky or less beautiful or less dateable. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
The mental anguish that causes, the mental fucking anguish that purity culture forces down the throat of religious and non-religious girls alike. Because this purity culture is being forced down the throat of anyone who has to sit through abstinence-only curriculum.
Oh, yeah.
That's what purity culture is.
Yeah.
I will wait.
And I sat through it in California.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I mean, and that's, that I'm fortunate that I had, actual sex ed in schools, but like my mom, bless my mom never had a sex talk with me.
Right.
The extent of my mom's sex talk was, if you need birth control, I'll get it for you.
Great.
Like that was it.
Thanks.
So there was no like healthy conversation
about consent,
about what those things should look like.
Pleasure.
And then my friend at the time was very like trying to be the girl who was younger, but trying to be older. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost viewed like having sex the first time was almost viewed as like something to get over with.
Okay.
Which also not good.
No.
But then like dealing with that, then a month later, like here we are in church. Oh shit. Oh no. Oh, if only, and I can remember Ash for years going, if only I'd come to church a few months sooner.
Oh, God. I could have been saved.
I could have been saved sooner.
Oh.
Yeah. Nightmares.
The trauma that we endure from toxic purity culture is deep and is real. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience and talking about this with us. I hope that, if anything, people take from this maybe an idea that they can go to someone maybe who's younger, maybe somebody who's a teenager, maybe somebody who is experiencing this exposure to church. Because like you said, sometimes when you live in a household that there isn't church, we get taken to church and we get exposed to other people's ideas about church. Maybe you can be that voice that says, hey, not everything you learn in church is accurate. Your pleasure is your own. Your consent is your own. Women are not responsible, A, for the pleasure of anyone, B, for the morality of anyone, or C, for upholding the ideals and beliefs of an entire religion. Toxic purity culture is the idea that women have to be the Virgin Mary, who isn't real. Have to be this woman who is submissive to her husband, which also isn't real because not every woman wants a husband.
No.
And upholds these ideals that virginity is the ultimate goal, to be chaste, to be virgin-like, to be pure. And virginity in and of itself is a social construct that we've created. It's not a thing. It's awful. So thank you so much for being here to discuss toxic purity culture and what it means to have a little bit of insight into that world, into the ideas of the abuses that take place within the church, within our families. You want to plug anything before we go?
Sure. Folks want to find me on social media. They can find the Mysteries Dakota podcast. If you want to talk about paranormal and not toxic purity culture, if you want to talk about ghosts and weird stuff, Mysteries Dakota podcast on all podcast platforms. And then, excuse me, I don't know what happened there. This is the church coming after me.
I know, right?
No. And then if you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Darcy Staniforth, DarcyStaniforth.
I did tag you in today's reel, so people can find you by going to the reel today.
Fantastic.
And clicking the little thing and seeing
little thing.
You. And I'll make sure to tag you when we do a reel about this episode as well.
Absolutely.
make sure you go and check out Haunted OC as well.
Yeah, Kellogg House, that's the tour. We've got more. We do them all year long.
Yeah.
So we've got dates. Come
We
say
are
hi.
coming up to
I'm taking
Halloween time.
I'm taking my
you
mom.
should take
Awesome.
your mom. For 1,000%
Yeah.
sure you should take your mom. Make sure that you are keeping yourself, understanding what a social construct is, understanding what your responsibility is as a human, not taking upon the burdens of individuals, not taking on the burdens of an entire religion, knowing that your sexuality, your pleasure, and your consent is yours and belongs to no one else. There are people in this country who don't understand this, so expressing this to other people and spreading the word about being sexually autonomous is very, very important. And sex education, above all, is one of the most important things that we can give to individuals to shut down things like toxic purity culture. Thank you for sharing this with me.
You're welcome.
Come
Thanks
back.
for having me on.
Join us again.
I'd love to. I'll come back.
You want to do it in like 5 minutes?
Sure. Let's do it.
Fantastic. Make sure you check us out at What's Your Position Podcast on Instagram. Give us a call at 513-696-SEX if you have questions about, virginity or anything really related to sex and relationships. We'd love to have you on air. Please make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Woo! Brand new for season 3. Check out What's Your Position Podcast on YouTube. Watch us do this live. But above all, I want you to stay safe, stay kind, and stay sexy.
Laughing at the other girls who think they're so cool. We'll be out of here as soon as we can.
What's Your Position podcast represents the opinions of Ashley Weller and her guests. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is intended for education and entertainment purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of error. Stay safe, stay kind, and stay sexy.